Okay, we're live. Hey, how's it going, guys? Another exciting week at Cheat Layer. It keeps getting more exciting as we're getting super overwhelmed with traffic. In fact, we're so overwhelmed with traffic that we've hit our rate limit with the GPT-4 API. And so that means that um, we are no longer able to allow new users to access the GPT-4 API. So if you have access to the GPT-4 API, and all users should have access now, um, all users should have access. Sorry, not now. I mean, at the end of the month, because OpenAI promised that they would open up usage, and also there's this like FAQ if you search how to get access to GPT-4. It says that if you pay them at least $1 in the playground side, and this is the playground side, not the chat side, so you got to go to playground. If you pay them at least $1, it'll show up with the GPT-4 API uh, and give you access to use the GPT-4 API in Cheat Layer. And that's just because they currently have a rate limit of 200 requests per minute, but they said that they would also increase it next month. So hopefully next month we're going to be allowed to um, increase our own rate limits and even allow free users to test agents. So that's kind of exciting. We also just broke 22,000 users, monthly active users, and 5,000 YouTube subscribers and 1,000 Discord members. Yeah. So yeah, we're it's slowing down a little bit, I think, because just general adoption in chat GPTs may be slowing down. So I think a big reason that we were growing is people are looking for things like this and found that CheatLayer just does a lot more. And or maybe a lot of people didn't have access to plugins. And so a lot of that organic growth, we were actually mostly growing completely organically the last few months. So we haven't really spent much time on marketing because we haven't really reached product market fit in our mind. So we're going to focus on the product at least until we finish. And then we're going to go bananas on marketing. I mean, we've been doing little things just to test and see what the ROI is, and it's pretty cool. So um, there's an auto update that's now taking a manual review. Let's see. I don't have it open, but sometimes Google takes a manual review to process these extension updates, and it's just random, it seems. And sometimes it takes 1 day or 6 hours or 2 hours. With other extensions that are not Manifest version 2 grandfathered in, it's usually 20 minutes. Or that was my experience before. But we have something called Manifest version 2, which has been grandfathered in, and this is like this whole thing with the Chrome extension. You can go Google it and see what it means. But basically, I think Google has realized that they're backtracking on this, that it's not really good for customers, and they're getting a lot of backlash on Manifest version 3. And so there's no longer any time limit now for us to switch. And so, but they give us like these super long random delays sometimes. I guess that's the penalty for Manifest version 2. I don't think new users can submit Manifest version 2, so you have to be grandfathered in. And so, um, just something we have to deal with. It's a pain. If there's some way that we could instantly update, that would be amazing, because then we could fix bugs instantly, iterate instantly. When we had 20-minute iterations, we actually built very quickly. So anyways, there's a big update coming that adds a lot of big features from this last week's design sprint. And then next month, we plan to focus mostly entirely on Cheat Layer Desktop, which actually we started launching in January. If you go look at our YouTube, you can see videos of our hackathon launch in January, and that was really fun. And we even demoed Cheat Layer Desktop then, but it was that took like hours for people to download Cheat Layer Desktop, and so hold on, let me see. Are we live? Okay, yeah, we're live. Okay, cool. And so we wanted to wait till we launched Cheat Layer Desktop, and we wanted to focus on doing one thing well. And that's why we released only the extension for product and launch. And it took us maybe several months to figure out how to make it easy to, excuse me, make it easy to upload to, make it easy to get to the aha moment and download from the Microsoft Store. And also, I think if people download the extension, you can kind of build automations now within 1 minute. And they're going to be more willing to download the desktop, which is still large in the desktop version. So, okay, so we have several updates that are exciting this week, including big update to editing agents in the agent management dashboard. And so now you can actually converse with agents. You can ask them what they're doing. Let's see. And you can edit their tasks very easily. So before it was kind of hard to edit tasks because it was like a wall of text, small little block of text. But now you can add steps, remove steps, add guidelines to each step, edit them individually, things like that. And then all your edits also actually save. So, for example, let's say add a bunch of stuff at the end here. They instantly save. I can cancel them. Makes it very easy to edit these things in a visual interface. And then you also have the ability now on the right-hand side to test speaking to agents directly. So this allows you to very easily test agents now. Before you had to use email, SMS, or webhook to test the agents, which that's pretty significant already. We support email, SMS, and webhook to every single agent. But now you can also instantly test them here in this chat. So for example, it'll be, let's see. Let's try this one.
I am an autonomous sales agent representing CheatLayer, a startup that builds automations from end to end in simple language. We recently won #1 product of the day on Product Hunt.
Okay, cool. And then you can continue to test it and ask questions against it. And this allows it a much easier interface to test your agents, add tasks to them, edit tasks. And I think actually we're the only agent management auto GPT thing that allows you to actually edit the tasks like this, edit the tasks directly. I'm not sure if anything else allows you to do this, but this is super powerful because it allows you to not have to rely on just what the model is generating currently. So it's kind of like human reinforcement in the loop, but at the level of the prompt, allowing users to do this. And so they can distill their insight to allow these agents to continue if they get stuck on roadblocks. This is super powerful for me to make actually useful agents because they often do get stuck in things. And so you can guide them and tell them what to do actually just by adding guidelines or adding steps in simple language. And then it concatenates all that for you back into the simple, back into the regular prompt language, basically. So that's one feature. This is also available in this next 803 update. So everyone, we're all waiting for this. It's cool. It makes it way easier to edit tasks, edit agents 10 times faster, make actually useful agents, things like that. Also, we have a new interface for automated tagging of what users have submitted. So we use GPT-4 to automatically generate tags intelligently for these automations that users submitted. And you can just click between them. And as we grow, as the community grows, as more users have access to agents, we're going to incentivize customers to share their discoveries and actual valuable agents. But we're going to also share some base agents ourselves, like the sales agent, the research agent, and the product software generation agent. So yeah, go try these out. It's much easier. You can instantly deploy them, and it keeps track of how many people have actually run these things. Okay, so next. So we have something called a global agent memory. So okay, so basically, we've set up something that's similar to the Supabase that all users have access to, and then this allows your agents to have memory and allows them to implicitly learn things like what's high converting copy for your business. However, we also have a global version that it's an opt-in version of this that allows you to share your data or whatever you're willing to share, and we'll show you how to set that up. with a global version. And in order to get access to that, we're going to vet all the businesses that want to share their data. Because if we get random data, it doesn't actually help agents. So we need to make sure that we're filtering for actual successful businesses that already have customers and are maintaining conversations with these customers. And that's really valuable data, because then we can implicitly learn in many different markets how to sell well, such that when users are starting a new business, they don't start from zero. Or if you want to own a business and you're trying to go to a new region or deploy a new product in your region, then typically that involves a lot of expensive testing, and a lot of businesses waste a lot of money, fail trying to do these things. And so if you could just not have to start from zero, that's going to save you a lot of time and make it more likely to succeed. Okay, so you can get access to this form, and there's a link to it in the description of this video. So if you please fill out the form. If you have data already, you can now upload data directly to your agents. If you click agent settings, click this button, and I'm going to go over an example of talking to research papers as well. And then basically this allows you to ask business intelligence questions now very easily, and I'll show you how to do this yourself by building your own agents like this. And you can see in this agent, it's a very simple agent. And we're going to go over this agent. It's a research agent that I asked it to analyze the input questions and then extrapolate based on the input and the research provided research. And this agent, all these agents have access to your Supabase. So if you want this agent to talk about something, some research data, something about your business, get some questions, if you have like anything that you're interested in, you can upload it all to Supabase using this button in the settings menu. So just keep uploading PDFs or text files, whatever. It doesn't have to be structured. It can just be random data. And then it'll automatically chunk it up for you. And so let me show you what that looks like. Yeah, so it'll chunk it up for you. If you have like a big like a research paper, it'll automatically cut it up into 1,000-character chunks. And what that allows it to do is get something called embeddings, which relates them to a number. And then when you talk to this agent, and we're going to go over a live example of how this works, it'll convert whatever you say to the same embedding number, or a different embedding number. But those numbers can be related now very easily with a distance metric across the whole database. So very quickly, you can now get everything in the research paper that was related to what you say. So that's pretty cool. So everyone has access to this now. You don't have access to this cool new editor. This is really useful until you have 803, but it makes everything like 10 times faster to build and test functional agents. Yeah, so features like this, we're looking for more features like this. So let us know when you're testing and building these agents for yourself, where you get stuck and what would you like? What are the wish list items? Because we're kind of building project management for agents, which is a new thing. And so, for example, like this loading bar, I don't think anyone else who's building agents is building this kind of thing, like a loading bar. And we're building it because we're focused on making it useful for customers. And so this whole interface is way more useful than this. But this whole idea of even just being able to edit tasks, I don't know if any other agents allow you to do this, but it's super powerful because you can now build your own custom agents like this yourself. You can all, of course, use this, like have it generate these tasks for you using this. If you enter something down here in the goal run agent, but this is like, I very rarely now rely on this because I can very easily build my own agent. I think much faster. But sometimes I do rely on it just to see what it does. It's kind of, so I recommend playing around this. I recommend definitely editing tasks to build useful agents. More often than not, we're going to get more successful agents because you can guide them when they hit their roadblocks. They might get stuck like on step 3 or something, right? And you can see what happened and just tell it what it did wrong in simple language. Okay, so this global agent memory, we're going to allow users to get access to this if you're willing to share access, but also implicitly bake that data into all agents so that everyone has access to it. And then so basically there'll be like tiers of like based on how much data you're willing to share things. And I think that's like an open source way to take care of it, because if you think about it, we have to build this in such a way that there's not going to be an incentive to sell the data back to customers, because even if like I can design this now this way, but CheatLayer could become a large entity one day, just like Microsoft. And so there might be different goals that just align differently at that stage. And so it's just not possible to predict what will happen then unless you design it in such a way to prevent that. So one thing that we're doing one really important thing we're doing is that we're making sure users all have access to their own Supabase, and at any time they can remove the data from the global opt-in memory database. And so they can keep it, take it, they have the keys. And the other thing that I think will be useful is setting up like an incentive structure such that users have an incentive to contribute. That'll like jumpstart this system, this community built system, and also that there's no incentive for people to, like the business, to somehow save the data and sell it back. So, okay. And I think the way to do that is to actually make the whole community Supabase that we're sharing transparent entirely, and give basically our users entire access to that. We're going to figure out a way to do that. There's like a way probably to only logged in users will be able to see all the data, and you can test it, query against it to see all the community data. And so I think that's one way we're going to build this to ensure basically to negate companies like Microsoft who are inevitably, they're already doing this. They're going to gather the data from the free users. That's what they're doing now. And they're going to sell the data back to the paying users, but the paying users have no option to save their data. So we're building it in such a way that when Microsoft inevitably enters this market, we have a compelling solution to actually convince people to switch. I don't think the technology is going to be that hard. Like, I think Microsoft might even copy us or what I don't think it's not going to be the technology of this solution that's going to be hard, the competing factor. I think what's going to be like the defensive mode is really the design of how we incentivize users to store their own data. And because the data is really where the value is going to be in the defensive moat. And if we keep it for ourselves, then we go in a direction that basically limits the growth of the company over time. And so if you think about it in a different way, it's possible for us to grow much larger, much faster, if we allow users to keep access to the data. Okay, so all right. Before we get into talking about research and things like that, so we also have the ability to do voice cloning. So now all users have access to speaking to agents. Project Atlas can now also speak, so you can go to any website and say, read the contents of this page by speaking to me. Or you can now speak to any one of these agents by just clicking this speaker button. And I'm going to go over an example, show you how to do that. And then, of course, these agents can now also be triggered from email, SMS, voice, and webhooks, which means you can now also trigger them from like Zoom calls. And with this new interface, now that the new interface is finally out, there's just one last thing we want to release is probably improving the settings, making this, saving some of these keys seems to be a big user request. We automated a lot of the setup for the sales agent, so you just have to click that button. But maybe automating some of these setups directly with just one button here will be useful too. And so once we finish that, we're gonna maybe freeze the UI and release tutorials for all this stuff because we've been developing very quickly. And like we released in the last few weeks major features that would have taken months previously. And part of the reason we are able to do that is that we actually use Project Atlas itself to generate this interface. This would have taken weeks to build and things like that. And even this interface was built using Project Atlas. So I think even though we're actually moving really quickly, we're still like neck and neck with like all the competitors in this race. So what's going to happen is like in a month or two, there are going to be several large companies that are kind of building this similar solution. But I think the big difference between us, the advantage we have is we've had thousands of global customers testing it, teaching us what to build, teaching us what are the roadblocks that really matter, and building it in such a way to make it useful for them in actual businesses. And so I think there are roadblocks that these companies, when they enter the market, they're going to realize. they're probably going to go in the same direction. They're going to have to maybe copy us or something. But at that point, then we'll have the ability to actually convince their customers to switch to us. So that's going to be exciting. So that's the goal, anyway. So we're building several unique solutions to work towards that. Yeah, voice quoting is one thing. I don't think that's really the big thing. I mean, for us personally, probably email agents are the most valuable thing. But we're setting up now for one car dealership SMS agents. I'm interested to see how that goes. And there's a few customers who are interested in just testing out voice agents. And so if you have a use case, well, if you already have a sales team, first of all, send me an email at rohan@cheatlayer.com and I will fly out to your office and set up I'll automate your sales team using these agents. And we can test it first if you want to, but if I guarantee that you will at least increase the number of demos you have, you'll at least increase and accelerate what you're already doing. But maybe even improve like your reply rates and conversion rates, because that's what happened to us. We improved our reply rates from Apollo.io from 4% to now like 12%. So it's actually getting better because we're testing and teaching the agents to reply better and things like that. And I think part of the reason, well, one of the obvious reasons for that is these agents do personalized outbound and conversations. And so obviously it's going to be different from cold outbound, which is the same message to everyone. So should be slightly better, but also one thing I'm noticing is that these agents like instantly respond. So even our sales agents never instantly responded. But that seems to be, and because they're responding like in a unique way, it seems to convince people that it's a real person. Like it's really because I mean, I think once this gets out and people start using this technology, people will start realizing that agents can do this. But there's few customers that we're testing this now that have no idea. Like I published in our last meetup or one of our last meetups, someone replying it to it 5 times. And I think one of the reasons people believe it is because it's actually real-time conversation and they're replying in a meaningful way because these agents have the memory stored in Supabase. And I think there's this cool thing, like people say like hallucination is a bad thing, but so it's hallucinating in a good way in this case for the sales agent, for example. So if you say things like, if you talk about a market that we haven't trained it on, right? It comes up with wild use cases and like implementation examples. Like I explained in our last meetup how that simple sentence is all the direction I gave our sales agent, and it like extrapolated to all those reasonings for real estate and all that stuff. So this is like an example of what it's not called hallucination. I think in this case, I think it's like extrapolation or imagination. When it's good, it's imagination, maybe. So it has this ability, and I think that we're going to find use cases where users are going to discover like new use cases, not just sales, to implement this. So, for example, like on accident, I left it on. You should do this yourself too. Like when you get access to agents, try it just hitting this button on one of these. Set up one of these agents for yourself, and like describe how you want it to talk to you. Like maybe upload some research papers to Supabase, and then hit this button, and then connect it to your headphones, and then go walk around your house for a while and like start talking to it. And in the latest version, you can actually tell it to stop, so you can tell it it's not as annoying, and it stops talking when you talk, so it's much more natural, and it's really cool. Like I did this on accident, and I just asked a random question. I didn't expect anyone to answer, and someone answered in my ear in like an intelligent way. So it's really surprising. I think you'll be surprised when you try it. It's like a personal assistant that understands the history of the Earth, anthropology, design, software engineering, chemistry, physics. So you can answer, like you can ask it anything, and you can design your own personal assistant like any way you want. So it's kind of like a coach, actually. So I recommend everyone try this when you get access. I mean, everyone should have the speaker button at least. But this interface makes it really easy to edit these at tasks and build your own agents and stuff like that. And we now have the ability to even clone voices. So I think you can even like pick who you want it to sound like. That's cool. You can clone your own voice. That'll be exciting. We'll implement that. We'll implement like a feature to allow you to upload an MP3 and clone a voice through the 11 Labs API because they're really cool. Okay. So yeah, I would recommend playing around with that personal assistant feature. I mean, it's not like I don't think it's valuable for business. I think it's more like a consumer tool, but it's super useful. Like just it was on accident. I spent a lot of time just talking to it, so I think it's fun, and I'm going to do this too. we're going to talk to it as well in a second. So, so let's go back. So let me explain what Cheat Layer Desktop is and why we're doing all this, right? So when we first came up with the idea of Project Atlas, there's this really old blog post from summer 2022, and we really came up with it probably around like the end of the last boot camp, the first boot camp. So we held a boot camp early on when we launched Cheat Layer to teach people how to use GPT-3, because we figured the solution was GPT-3 required jargon and software engineering knowledge to use effectively, and we figured we should teach users how to use that jargon and like generate automations and things. And that wasn't the solution, but long story short, that wasn't the solution. But what we did is, because we're looking at metrics, we have something called Mixed Panel that shows us who's actually using the product and who's actually using GPT-3. And that's why we're building all these things, to get people to use the product more. That's why we're building these interfaces and stuff like that. After the boot camp, we taught people how to use GPT-3. The usage went up and then immediately dropped down. No one used GPT-3. So it wasn't that they couldn't use it. They could use it, I think. They remembered the phrases to use it. It just wasn't like easy or something that they would want to do and stuff like that. So in order to reach people like this that are completely non-technical, we have to reach them at their level of understanding, which is most people. The majority of the world is this. So in order to do that, you have to do it in simple language as possible. Okay, and then so that was the original that was the original vision for Cheat Layer. To get that to work, we built this whole system in desktop. Actually, not the Chrome extension was something we built later, second actually. We built the whole system originally on desktop because in order to solve all the roadblocks for automation, you need to be able to at least automate across programs for one, but also there's this thing called computer vision targeting. And there's other automation tools that use this where you can like search by the image. And that's more robust because then you don't have to rely on the code. The selectors of the code might randomly change and stuff like that. And the image sometimes is more robust. And you can make it scale, rotation, invariant, and stuff like that. So you can translate it to your friends who have different resolutions. So that's really robust, but that doesn't solve the problem of, like for example, Twitter changing their design. And this is really funny because let's go to Twitter, which is now X. So when we first came up with this idea for agents, the thought experiment we had, right, was that Twitter might change their tweet button. So, like, I think, like, I don't know, last summer we predicted Twitter would change their tweet button. We had no idea that this would happen. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but this is a great test because we're going to figure it out. We're going to find out what's happening. So, okay, so the idea behind semantic targets is that Twitter might, for example, someday change their tweet button. So how do you solve that problem with agents, right? You can't, like, even if the design completely changes, how do you do that? So in order to do that, we figured that you could set up like maybe like a recurrent network or basically understand this idea, understand the underlying intent of the problem. And I have this whole blog post. You can go read it again. We re-explained what we were talking about back then. And basically the idea is that we can now abstract what users are saying into things like buttons. And so by doing that, we understand the underlying intent is actually a button, but it's not this like a brown orange button or something like that. It's a buy now button. And so by doing that, even if Amazon or Twitter changes the design of the tweet, right? If it's a different shade, well, what we said is if it's like a different shade of blue, or if it's a picture of a bird, you would still understand it's a tweet button. But this is a good test because they're completely changing their design. So I think it'll still work because what's going to happen is with semantic targets, we can use the multimodal nature of GPT-4 to understand basically the underlying intent of the target. So with all other automation tools that exist today, with Automation Anywhere, Microsoft, UiPath, they use either computer vision or they use code to target things. And that still breaks when the design completely changes, for example, like Twitter. And so in order to solve that problem, what you can do instead is use this multimodal nature of GPT-4, which we don't have access to. They haven't released access to everyone yet, to understand the actual image, understand images, the content of images. So you can see examples. This is another model, actually. This is the paper that I'm going to talk about in a minute. that understands like the underlying content of images. And so you can see that you can like just ask it to describe things, even like explain things. It'll explain why it's funny and stuff like that. And the reason this works is underneath this, it's converting everything to the same vector space that the text is being converted to. So it's the same it understands it exactly the same underneath. And so we don't have access to the GPT-4 version of this yet, but there's another paper and an open source model called Mini GPT that we can actually set up ourselves with like there's a fork of it that you can set up with a consumer grade graphics card. We might have to limit access again, like a waitlist, but or pay like buy a bunch of graphics cards. But this is how we get it working first. And then when we get access to the GPT-4 model, we'll just switch to probably a much better version of it. Basically, so let me just explain why this is cool. Because what it's going to do is, even if Twitter changes the design of the tweet button, right? If they like it's different word, completely different word, different color, whatever, it'll understand it's a button to post, or to understand it's a button to reply. It'll understand that's the underlying intent of what we're trying to do, and it'll still search for something like that on the page. And we can do that using just a screenshot of the page. So it's going to be much more robust. It's going to be faster. And it's going to be robust to even future design changes, something that would break every other automation tool today. And so that we're excited for that. I've been testing it, and like by changing the resolution and image, and like changing like the style of the button from, or like you can actually edit these buttons. So you can do this. Actually, this is an example. Let me grab this one. Yeah. So you can change the design very quickly, and I can just run automations against this, and just to test if it still works. And somehow it still works when I do things like this. When I like expand it completely, I change the color. It still works because it still understands it's a button to post a tweet. And I think I've even changed. I removed the button. I've even removed the tweet button because we've given it an example of the image, and it still even gets it to work. So this is going to be cool. It's going to allow you to automate any website, any program, across Mac, Windows, and Linux. And it's going to be robust to even future design changes. Even if they completely change their design in the future, like this, it should still be able to automate it and still be able to find where this is and still click it. That's kind of cool. All right. So that's what semantic targeting is. And then it's very important because some of our competitors, right? There are competitors who are also working on this, like Adept. They realize they took a very different direction, which is to build their own foundational model. And they decided not to stand on GPT-4's shoulder specifically. However, they're solving things in an interesting way. And so in order for them to get access to this same semantic targeting like kind of intelligence, it's possible for them to backtrack, get into that solution, but they have to build like a huge training system for it to actually implicitly learn how to do that. So that's the way they've set it up. So they can do this, but in order to do this, they have to like actually train for it to learn how to do all this stuff, because they didn't actually train the base model to implicitly understand like the intent of the images and stuff like that. So I think they could have. I mean, they could still use GPT-4. Maybe they'll just decide to use GPT-4 instead. But that's very interesting because they're going in a direction that's going to make it hard for them to do this. But it doesn't mean they can't automate things on the desktop using images. They'll use computer vision probably. That's very easy to do. That's what they're doing, actually. That's what they're doing to train their model. Like a recurrent network. It's a new foundational model, and it's training on actions. And so I don't think it matters, like, because like the finish line, the finish line is so valuable. It's worth literally billions per year just in the US alone. And so they're just by virtue of them focusing on some use case for business, they'll probably do fine and make a lot of money. That's what we should do as well. So it doesn't really matter, I think, like who has what or who's going to finish first. I don't think it's really competition, but I'm just making this interesting point. I think that this multimodal capacity of GPT-4 is super valuable. It's super and this semantic targeting is probably like, I don't know if they're going to adopt it. It's probably like the future of automation because it makes these things way more robust. I don't know if any other system is doing this yet. So that's pretty exciting. We filed a provisional patent on it, but uh, it'd be really cool if this actually works. And we can, when we release this, we can actually test it side by side other services that'll break. Like what we can do this with other services. We can like change the tweet button on other services and see if it still works, or just wait until a website changes their design and see if it still works. And we're gonna have more and more examples of that, side by side against every other automation tool, because they all break when this happens. And so this is one of those updates that's going to get it's going to get exponentially more valuable over time. So look out for this. It's cool. And then last thing before I get into the research, discussing the research papers and all that stuff. We have a big hackathon launch to launch SheetLayer Desktop. So this is still a race. I mean, we intended to launch in January, but like I explained, we wanted to focus on doing one thing well. I think it was good for the product at launch because it took some people 6 hours to download the desktop version, but with the extension, you can very quickly download it, and within a minute, you can like type post to Twitter about real estate, and you'll get the aha moment within a minute. Or you can build like a website, and you'll get the aha moment within a minute. And so that's why we focused on releasing the extension first. But SheetLayer Desktop, like I've explained, it's super important for all the roadblocks, like completing our vision and all the roadblocks in Project Atlas. In fact, Project Atlas was originally built on desktop. We quickly ported it to the extension because we wanted it to do well for the product at launch. And I think now that people understand the value of what it can do, you can quickly generate leads globally by saying scrape Google Maps, for example, for lawyers in New York for 10 pages. Instantly, you get more data than Google. You can quickly build landing pages instantly that are functional with stock images, with functional lead generation magnets like mortgage calculators. You can build autonomous sales agents. That's probably the most valuable thing we've done. And so I think people are understanding that there's value very quickly. And my point is that it's going to convince them to download the 6 hour thing, which is SheetLayer Desktop. It might be, it's probably less than 6 hours, maybe like 2 hours now for some people, but it's still huge. It's still like 2 GB at least. And so we're trying to get that down, but it's just there's a lot of computer vision, machine learning technology just going into it. And it's all open source, but it's necessary to make it work. And so it's all completely also new. So maybe over time they'll be able to optimize it and things like that. But I think people they understand the value of what semantic targeting is. It's better than what we've been doing, and it's better than what everyone else is doing. So I think we can convince people to download this big 6 GB, 2 GB thing. Okay. So to launch this, we're holding another big hackathon, and we're aiming for the first week of September now, 1 month from now. And we're flying out users. So we've already put out like forums and requests and polls. We've asked a bunch of early supporters who is available to fly out on such short notice, because we did this before in January. We flew out anyone who was available to the last hackathon, which is great because that was actually the first time we even met our own team, because they were all scattered globally and across the US and stuff. So even David came from Portugal. That was fun. We met actually all those users we met like over the year remotely. So that was kind of cool too. And we got a lot done in a single night. And in that first hackathon event, we brought our office hours staff to work with users to help them build things. And that was kind of necessary because that helps them build completely new things in office hours and train them into Project Atlas. So at that point, the training projects for Project Atlas required a coder to train new automations. But now we've trained in a lot of the foundational building blocks such that users can discover new things by just piecing together things. So for example, you can go to any website and say, scrape all the links to this page to Google Sheets. Or you can go to a YouTube and say, scrape the transcript to a Google Sheet, or download it. Or you can say, generate a blog from the transcript. So like you can kind of piece these things together, like download things or generate things using GPT-3, or even speak. Speaking is now one of those building blocks. You can have it speak the output eventually now too. And so we haven't really spent a lot of time teaching users how to use those building blocks. That's part of that is we've been racing towards a finish line with competitors just to build the technology and put it out there as soon as possible. But with this hackathon launch, it's really going to be useful and a great event because now the users have the ability to access all these building blocks in simple language. And so they'll actually be able to build meaningful automations. Completely non-technical users, even users who are completely new users that we haven't met before, should be able to build completely new automations and discover them. And so the purpose of this hackathon is to both teach users how to do this and encourage them and actually start doing these tutorials. Except we're doing them live, and I think that's great. It's going to probably work really well too. So, like last time we talked, we asked our users. We had users spread about. The most users were in New York and then London, and so we could even take this global. That's great if it works out well. The idea is our real defensive mode and all of the value is the defense between us and Microsoft and the big guys is we have this huge community of users who are building, sharing their discoveries, sharing cheat codes, sharing agents, and now also sharing valuable business data. And so in order to grow this defensive moat, the path forward is really to grow this community. And so we're going to keep holding live hackathons like this because it's really fun for one. But like the last one was at this posh mansion. That's where we took that photo at the top on like the roof. And so we're going to find another cool place like that in New York. But really the purpose of it is to get users together, teach users, educate users that this new way of doing things is possible, because I think that's just really probably the only hurdle we have. But once I think like users start seeing like other users doing it, then there's a large community of users doing it. I think we'll start to see like a snowball effect, and it'll be easier for other users to do it themselves. So that's the purpose of this hackathon. We're gonna have cash prizes, even if you can't attend live. We're gonna have actual cash prizes for people. So there's gonna be, we're working with another website to do the online version, and so basically the idea is submit new cheat codes, maybe that are super valuable to businesses, and we're gonna actually vote on the winner, the most valuable based on the users. And so I would test and play around with Project Atlas. I would test and play around with agents. I would actually, one unique path to this, if you have already valuable business data, you can build agents that are already good at selling. Because the way you can construct your agent is you can say, bring up all the conversations that led to a sale or a demo link and construct a new conversation in this style. And so by that, you can implicitly learn what is high converting copy. So I think that's probably the most valuable agents, but I don't know, maybe by popularity it could be something completely different. So that's kind of cool. We also have this poll in our Discord where every week we're going to ask the community like what's the most interesting project for them, and we'll build it ourselves using simple language just to show how to do this, because we're getting kind of good at this. The process of discovering new automations is not general AI like I mentioned, but it's basically trial and error in simple language. And since I've been doing this for a long time, I kind of know the phrases that work, the tricks that work. So it's like a toolbox of like words and phrases that I can pull out, but I can teach you guys by just doing this. So every week we're just going to get, this one got a ton of votes, 16 votes. Hold on. Generate custom code from input sources. So, okay, I kind of understand what that means. So what we can do is we can have an agent that triggers from webhooks from your calendar, maybe even your email, and listens to what's happening, and then intelligently, when it needs to, like guides you towards a goal. That's possible. Or it could read from a spreadsheet or something simple or something like that too. Yeah, that's very easy, something we can do, because agents can now be triggered from webhooks. So that's a very simple example. I could actually just type that up today. That's really cool. So give us more examples of this that would be valuable for your business in the next poll, and we'll keep the ones from the last poll, and we'll just keep growing like a big poll. This will also help us like iterate towards not just what are the most valuable automations for businesses, but what we should be training agents. What are the roadblocks we should be training agents to solve? Because I think something just implicitly doing something like this is probably also valuable to other solutions as well. So I think this is a good path. Probably even further, we might want to segment this by user. That would also be interesting data. Okay, so right, and then as a thank you for helping us get here, we're already extended an offer to early supporters who are available. We just gave them the form because They actually helped us get here. They made all this possible. We wouldn't have been able to build this without me meeting with like hundreds of users personally to help them build their automations, because in that process I learned all the roadblocks that we needed to teach Project Atlas to solve. Things like cross origin iframes. We wouldn't have even thought about semantic targeting if we didn't try to automate Salesforce iframes, because it's impossible unless you do some sort of computer vision thing. And we wouldn't have thought about like building semantic targeting unless we had a user come to us at one point and tell us their design of the website completely changed. And we were like, oh, shit, what do we do there? And so that's how we started thinking about this stuff. So it was really only possible because of all these early supporters that met with me personally to help like automate their business. So as a thank you, we're flying a bunch of those guys out to the next, to the hackathon. And then if that works out well, everyone's like at this point, everyone's going to be an early supporter at some point, right? So we're just going to go globally. Let us know where we should go next. All right, cool. So let me just go back. There is a research paper I really want to talk about. So this paper, right? So this is the most exciting thing we're probably going to release in the next month. Cheatler Desktop is the most exciting thing, but this is like at the crux of what it is. So there's this model or this paper called Mini GPT-4. You guys can access it now. There's a fork on GitHub that allows you to access it if you have a 4090 GPU, so you can actually run it at home. But it's this preview of what GPT-4 can do, which is this multi-modality of the model, which allows you to understand images and text inside the same vector space, basically. And so you can say things like, give it both images and text. It'll understand kind of both and then answer questions against both. So it does these wild things like, here's a few examples. Like, describe this image as detailed as possible. It says, the image shows a busy street with a clock tower in the background. The street is lined with shops and there are restaurants on both sides. There are several motorcycles parked. Like, this is all completely true. It's a low resolution image. And you can also ask it, like, to build. This is wild. You can ask it to, like, they did this in the original GPT-4 demo, like, months ago. You probably remember this if anyone saw that, but we never got access to that. We still haven't gotten access. But this is, excuse me, this is something that GPT-4 itself can actually do. So they just have an endpoint to their API that they just haven't told us about yet. So I presume some users have access to it and they're testing it, but they haven't even talked about the release, so I have no idea if we'll get access to it this year, next year. Maybe there's some kind of legal implications about it. But this is the open source version. And in their demo, you remember they drew a website and asked it to build the website, and actually built the website. So that's basically the idea. You can kind of understand that's really powerful. We'll be able to do cool things like this. That's fun. We'll do that anyway. But what we want to use this for is semantic targeting, right? So you can understand that if we just take an image of the screenshot of the page and or just the button, it'll actually be able to understand that it's a button for buying things or a button for posting replies. And it doesn't care what the design is, because the design could completely change. It'll still understand if it's like a black, blue, whatever button, it's still a button for posting replies. So I think that's going to be way more robust. And within that, we're going to take it a step further and use some computer vision to actually figure out where to click and stuff. So that's going to be cool. It's like a hybrid targeting system that combines both what we used before with computer vision and this new semantic approach. So that's kind of exciting. And I've loaded it into this research model. This research agent, and I've set up all my Supabase, OpenAI, 11 Labs keys. Oh, that's the new thing. In the new update, if you guys set up your OpenAI key and 11 Labs key, the latency for the speaking of the agents gets down to about 2 seconds. So we started about 3 seconds. We shaved like 500 milliseconds off by optimizing, by doing the pipeline design. And then we shaved another 500 milliseconds by going directly to the servers. So if you add these API keys now, you can go directly to the servers. It's almost as fast as possible now. It's about 2 seconds. I think we can even shave another 500 milliseconds off. There's another trick we can do. Possibly. Yeah, there's definitely one more trick we can do. And then at that point, I don't know what else we can do, because at that we'll get to 1.5 seconds. That's still not really realistic enough to be a human. And to be a human, you need to be a response time of 200 milliseconds to 500 milliseconds, like even over the phone or something. And so It's still going to sound like sort of delayed or something. People will probably still figure it out still. But it's still useful. I mean, still wildly useful if you just tell people that it's an automated system. Like, it's way better than current receptionists. A lot of reception, like automated receptionists, automated voicemails, things like not actual receptionists, like automated digital receptionists and things like that. Because those are all like button systems that are super frustrating to use. This one you can actually talk to and maybe could actually do things for you, like send emails to people, do actual functional things for your business, because it can actually do automations. Way more useful things than just like guide people through numbers. I think we're going to set up a system to allow people to set up like voice support like that, because that is a huge market. I just haven't really, we haven't tried to approach any enterprise customers like that. So if anyone does a big current system with voicemail or support or something like that, like a touchstone system, let me know and I'll be happy to set it up for you for free, just to test it out and see what it does, just to build it with your business to get data from it. And if that's useful for you, you can use it for free, but we just want to sell it to other people. Yeah, so let me know if anyone finds that useful. Okay, so all right, once you have all this stuff set up, you can go to any one of these agents now and you can sort of talk to them, right? So let's do this. Oh wait, let me make sure I'm streaming. Okay, cool. Explain the research paper Enhancing Vision Language Understanding with Advanced Large Language Models.
The research paper titled Enhancing Vision Language Understanding with Advanced Large Language Models aims to explore the potential of advanced large language models in improving the understanding of visual information through the fusion of vision and language modalities. The paper proposes a novel approach that leverages the power of large-scale language models, specifically GPT-4, the fourth iteration of the generative pre-trained transformer, to enhance the comprehension of image and text data. The first step in the proposed approach is to pre-train the GPT-4 model on a large corpus of text data encompassing a diverse range of topics. It highlights the limitations of existing methods in effectively integrating visual and textual information and proposes using advanced large language models as a solution. During the foretraining, to enable the model to understand, once pre-training is completed, the model becomes capable of generating coherent and contextually relevant text based on given prompts. They develop a multimodal input pipeline.
Would it be possible to construct a new computer vision-based targeting system that understood the underlying intent of a target to build a far more robust automation system that was robust to even future design changes, using the research in the paper Enhancing Vision Language Understanding with Advanced Large Language Models?
Yes, it is possible to construct a new computer vision-based targeting system that understands the underlying intent of a target and build a more robust automation system, as training the model with aligned image text pairs. This dataset should include diverse examples too. Pay particular attention to techniques used to bridge the gap between vision and language. Such understand the research paper. Begin by thoroughly understanding the concepts and findings presented in the research paper. Identify the limitations. As mentioned in the research paper, Mini GPT-4 inherits the limitations of L. Identify the advancements in vision language understanding achieved by leveraging LLMs. These limitations need to be addressed to build a more robust automation system. This model should be based on advanced LMS-LMs, such as unreliable reasoning ability and hallucinating non-existent knowledge. This can be achieved by leveraging natural language processing, NLP techniques, and incorporating additional training data that explicitly 3. Evaluate and fine-tune the system. Once the model is trained, evaluate its 4. Fine-tune the model based on the evaluation results. To train a vision language model, utilize the collected data set to train a vision language model. By training the model on a diverse range of target designs and incorporating techniques such as few-shot learning the system of targets, capturing variations in design, appearance, and intent, continuously monitor its performance, collect user, building upon the advancements presented in the research paper. Account for future design changes to ensure the automation system remains robust to future design changes. Collect and curate data. To overcome the limitations of Mini-GPT-4, collect and curate a large data set of high-quality, aligned image-text pairs that reflect the underlying intent of the target. By following these steps and leveraging the research on enhancing vision language understanding, train the model using state-of-the-art techniques such as self-supervised learning, multimodal pre-training, and fine-tuning. With advanced LLMs, it is possible to construct a new computer vision-based targeting system that understands the underlying intent of a target and builds a robust automation system that remains effective even 5. Incorporate intent understanding to build a more robust.
If we use GPT-4 instead of Mini-GPT, just as the research paper describes, enhancing vision language understanding with advanced large language models, could that mitigate some of the issues in implementing a robust computer vision-based targeting that understands the underlying intent of the target, something that we could call semantic targeting?
If we were to use GPT-4 instead of Mini-GPT, it is possible that it could help mitigate some of the issues and enhance vision language understanding, as mentioned in the research paper. This could potentially result in better understanding of the underlying intent of the target, which can be beneficial for semantic targeting in computer vision applications. Its semantic targeting typically involves understanding the meaning or intent behind a target, rather than just its surface-level characteristics. In terms of implementing a robust computer vision-based targeting system, here is of a computer vision system. By using GPT-4, which is designed to have a better grasp of language and context, we can potentially enhance the semantic targeting capabilities aims to extract higher-level information from the target, such as emotions, context, or abstract concepts. Data collection. Collect a diverse and representative dataset of images that step-by-step explanation of how we can utilize GPT-4 to achieve semantic targeting. And 1. Annotate the data with corresponding semantic labels or descriptions that capture the underlying intent or abstract concept of that covers the range of targets you want to semantically understand. Pre-processing. Pre-process the collected image dataset, including resizing, normalization, and any other necessary pre-processing target. Training vision model. Train a computer vision model, such as a convolutional neural network, CNN2. This vision model should be capable of extracting.
Okay, this is wild. I don't know if you guys saw that or was following along with that, but I didn't hear that before. That's completely new stuff that I haven't heard it say before, but that's actually true and actually useful for implementing this. So it's crazy. Like the stuff it says about the limitations of Mini GPT-4 and having to curate our own data. I was thinking about that. I knew that was something I was worried about. And then we asked it a question if the real version of GPT-4 would mitigate these issues and we wouldn't have to worry about that. And it said yes, and it guided us to a solution and things like that. And it's the idea is that we should have zero-shot learning with GPT-4, and we shouldn't have to do any sort of training. But it might be something that we need to do because we might need to understand, for example, the history of the tweet button, for example, when the Twitter completely changes their design to X or something, we might need many different buttons or sizes or things just to understand that it's still a button, a reply button, or whatever. So super interesting. Anyways, everyone should have access to this anyway already. You don't have access to this interface yet until you get the next auto update, but you can speak to agents now directly. You can upload any research paper to your Supabase, your business database, your business conversations with your customers, and ask actual business intelligence questions now against your business data. So, yeah. All right, cool. And then I think just last thing I want to mention is let me know if anyone else has the ability to attend the hackathon, and if anyone else is interested in submitting their data to the global agent memory. All right, that's all I got time for. Thank you guys. See you next week.